Let me just start recording. Cool. Well, we've got quite a few people in tonight, which is good. I know you can't see everyone, but I can see how many are here, which is really good to see. So week 3, welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone's had a good week. We're into what, week 6 of lockdown now? Everyone fine? It's become quite normal. So here we are. So let me just actually share my screen for a start. That'd be good. We don't want to do another Tomo like we did last week. No, he's watching. There we go. So here we are, week 3, and we've pushed out an email this weekend. There's been a few emails kicking around. We've got to grips with the email chain now, and it's all going to be running smoothly, which is going to be good because over the course of this week, we're going to use it as an opportunity to feed some certain things out to yourselves as well, and use it to hopefully gain some thinking, some thought-provoking ideas when we're not online as well. So you will be receiving stuff like that. Let me just put my phone on silent. So yeah, that'll be coming out this week. But this week is by far, for me, delivering it, going to be one of the most sort of enjoyable ones to deliver, but also hopefully for yourselves, probably the most relevant one to now use within your lives as we start to move through this pandemic crisis and hopefully towards the back end of the trees and start to see a bit more light. And this is where we're thinking about personal goals and what's next, what you're actually going to do. You'll also see on the screen is a name which says Jack Horder. So Jack's one of the lads which works on our team. He's a psychologist, and he's going to be joining us at the end from now on throughout the programme to give a couple of top tips of what we speak about within the content of the actual main seminar, and then linking it to basically the science and giving you some tangible top tips to walk away with as well. So we're really up in the game on what we're delivering here, and hopefully you really find it of value. So welcome back to week 3. Thanks again for joining us. As always, feel free to question, put comments and stuff like that. We do see it as it comes up, and then we've got the Q&A at the end, so we'll go through and answer your questions. I believe there was a little bit of confusion this week, and we had a few people ringing, messaging and emailing us on Tuesday evening saying they were in the waiting room or they couldn't get onto the Zoom call. The reason we began on a Tuesday at the beginning of this program just was purely because of Easter Monday, and every single one going forward is at 7:45 p.m. On Mondays, so next Monday as well. So hopefully those people with us tonight, and we're not going to have a few more people sat in the waiting room again tomorrow. But anyway, moving on. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk to you about a scenario which happened to me in Afghanistan in 2011, which I call my blue door. And it's something that, although the situation and scenario is probably very different to what many people have been through, it's something of relevance when we talk about what we go through when going through difficult situations. And that would then lead me on to talk about your own blue door, and this will become relevant very shortly. And then after last week, I introduced the ICE model, which we designed and created and launched within our own company. And this week, we're going to talk more in depth about it. And this, for me, is a real huge passion of what we deliver. And this is the absolute backbone of everything we do. Just to give you some insight of who we use this with, we've used this with some of the biggest banks, with the England football team, Manchester United, Volkswagen, Audi, everyone within Volkswagen Group. The list goes on, to be honest. So this has been delivered at an extremely high standard, and that's why we see it having such relevance to bring it into more just everyday life, which is why we're talking about it with people like yourself, so you can use it within your own personal daily life away from work, and then if you want to take it back to work, you can. But it will become very apparent as we talk through it, and it's really going to start to touch on this fear thing that we've been talking about of late. And I know there was a lot of questions. I've had a few emails about overcoming fear, and we have saved it to this point to discuss it. So we're going to talk about what your internal inspiration is and what is your deep-rooted real reason for doing things, and that's what we call it, the reason. How to develop courage and what we believe courage is, and then enactment, which is taking the steps. We're going to talk about goal setting right at the end of this this webinar, and then finally Jack's going to finish on top tips. So Jack's top psych tips is our new thing, so you can look out for that. And then we'll go into a Q&A at the end. Tomo is hanging around as well, so he's watching, and he'll probably join us at the end for the Q&A. So moving on. So I'm your host this week. Hopefully most of you know who I am now. I am Ben Williams, and I don't think I need to introduce myself anymore because the same names are appearing. But this is a blue door. So this is my blue door scenario, which I'm going to talk you through. So in 2011, we deployed to Afghanistan as part of Lima Company, which I know most of you now know. It was projected to be a 7 to 8 month tour, starting March, April time, finishing sort of late in the year. And so we were seeing the full stretch of summer, which was called the fighting season, where the Taliban would put down their arms towards the beginning of winter and through spring and autumn. But they'd pick up arms during the summer when the cultivating of crops didn't need doing, and then they'd fight us. And we got tasked with an operation to go into an area which was basically a dead zone. It was no man's land. The reason for it was the area we're in was called Nadi Ali. Nadi Ali was broken into two. So you had Nadi Ali North, and then you had Nadi Ali South. So in Nadi Ali North, we had 4-2 Commando and attached regiments to us, but we were the main bulk of the sort of military presence in Nadi Ali North. In Nadi Ali South, you had the main bulk of the presence was by 4-5 Commando, which are two separate Royal Marines units of about 900 men each, so 1,800 people, plus other regiments. So you probably had around 2,000, 2,500 people in Nadi Ali North, and then the same number in Nadi Ali South. Because of the distance so between ourselves and them, we would only patrol out so far. We'd have certain bases pepper potted around that area. But because of the distance, you could never fully get down, or we from the north could never really fully get down towards the south borderline. And those in the south could never really move far enough north to, again, meet us in the middle. So the Taliban used this area as a location where they could build their IEDs, they could do a lot of their strategizing, they could cache weapons there, they could do their tactics, and they would almost go completely unseen, unheard. And they'd use it as a rat run, and they'd run up and down from east to west in this divide no one can sort of really get to. So the decision was made that as a strike ops company, Lima Company would fly in and we would cause a disturbance. We weren't going to win back the ground. There was nothing we can really do. But cause a disturbance and just let them know that we can get to them when we want to get to them. So we flew in. The Americans gave us a lift in, and when you get a lift in with the Americans by helicopters, you get a serious lift in. So there was attack helicopters and Chinooks which filled the sky, and it was pretty much like Apocalypse Now scene where all the helicopters are coming over the horizon. And we landed on, and we were told that it was going to be quite a tasty operation, and it was 7 days long, and by tasty it means it's probably going to kick off as soon as we land on the ground. We landed on the ground, the helicopters took off, and utter silence, and no enemy, no ICOM chatter, which is the Taliban talking to us on their radios, which we could intercept, nothing. Even the question was thinking, have we even landed in the right place? And we went into a compound. We literally landed right next to a compound we needed to take, which was going to be our home for the next 7 days. We went into it, no real trouble from the farmer. He was a bit annoyed. The only real trouble was the cows, to be honest. Didn't really like us being in there, but we pushed them out. And again, nothing happened. And a couple of hours went by and nothing happened. And we were told this was going to be a ferocious place to come into. So we push out a patrol. The patrol goes out, comes back in 2 hours later, nothing. Found another patrol, same again, nothing. And things were a little bit quiet, a bit too quiet, which caused us to relax a little bit, I think. And I was stood with my back to a wall, looking across the courtyard, and over my head was quite a shallow roof, so I had some protection. Had a couple of guys with me there, and we were literally talking to some people, some of the Marines which were stood in the courtyard. And as we were talking to them, a grenade landed at one of their feet, detonated, took all 5 of those guys out, and then instantly we had incoming fire from 3 different angles on the roofs, so the Taliban started to attack us. So during the attack, we're trying to patch up our friends who have just been hit by this grenade whilst now defending the position. So we kind of got mixed up in it very quickly. The guys which had been hit by the grenade were actually, to be fair to them, they were quite good for their injuries. There was no real horrific injuries. That's the fortunate thing sometimes about grenades, is they don't actually do too much damage, what people think. So it was a kind of patch them up, get them ready to get on the helicopters, suppress the enemy, and that's exactly what we did. So the enemy went quiet, we called in the medical helicopters, and then we got the guys out of there, and then we came back in the compound, and it kicked off again. And it kicked off again, and it kicked off again. And it kicked off for most of the day. It came to a point in the day that we were rotating through on the roofs. So there was no point in everyone being up there at once, because if things got quite gnarly, people could get hurt, and then all of a sudden you've got no one else to replace them. And I found at one point during the day that I was one of the people off the roof, and I was running ammunition from one side of the compound to the other, to throw it up onto the roof to go get more, to make sure the guys on the roofs always had ammo. I was running by my commander, who was almost in a one-way conversation, a very heated one-way conversation, with our interpreter. And the interpreter was literally wide-eyed looking at him, pointing at this door. And my commander was going, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?" So I stopped inquisitively, listening in, and stood and stopped next to my commander, watching the interpreter. The interpreter said, "They're coming through the blue door. They're coming through the blue door." We looked literally to the left, 2 meters to our left is the blue door. In my body, I was going, shit, the blue door's just there and the Taliban are going to come through it. My commander next to me was like, "Okay, how many are there? What's there?" Starts grilling the poor, very frightened interpreter right now. He basically said that they're doing in-depth firing, which means it's 200-300 meters away, to distract everyone on the roofs, to then use the tree line to creep up to the compound, and did what they did earlier, which is throw grenades over the top and come through the blue door. And they said they can see the blue door. I can't tell you how much fear and worry and stress went through my mind at that immediate moment. And as I looked at my commander, who then went, "Right, we'll go get them," more went through my head. And he quickly went off to our boss and shouted, "Boss, I'm going to take Ben out the gate. We need to hose the tree line. They're coming through it now." Hose the tree line means shoot it. That for me was a moment where I thought, really? Can't we just stay in this compound and just keep a little bit safe and just keep our muzzles on the door in case they come through it? But the decision was out my hands, and the people on the roofs were fighting. There was hardly anyone else in the compound, and we were nearest the door, and it was a quick reaction. And he comes running back over, goes, "Right, come on, let's go, we're getting on the door." And it was just him and me, stood opposite one another, and he had his hand on the handle. He was like, "You ready?" And inside my head, I've never wanted to run so quickly from something. And I felt sick inside. I literally felt like I wanted to vomit. I was worried. All I can think about was being back at home on the sofa, watching trash TV. And yet here I am, stood on a doorway, about to go through into what is probably the barrels and muzzles of the Taliban waiting on the other side. And it wasn't helped by the interpreter going, "They're coming, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming." I was like, "Yeah, we get that point, mate." But it just sort of heated the scenario. And I was going through, I was having to channel everything. And my commander, looking back at me, looked so cool and calm, and he had his hand on the handle, and he went, "Ready?" And I just wanted to go, "No, I'm not ready. Why are we doing this?" But I just nodded. "Yep." Primed for my weapon, readied myself in my head. He went 3, 2, 1. He kicked the door, and then we went through it. And then we did what we need to do on the other side of that door. And I won't be here telling you the story, but I won't go into the grim details of what happened on the other side. My thinking behind that is, a moment happened then where I had to think with clarity and detach myself from this emotional way of thinking, which we spoke about week 1, which is adversity, remove unwanted emotion and adapt to the situation. And it was there and there on the spot where I was just thinking, just keep the door closed, just keep the door closed, you don't need to go out there. And then as the door widens open, you find yourself going through it. It's only during reflection where you consider why. What I want you to really think about, though, is every single one of you has been through a blue door. It might be physically, it might be mentally, but every single one of you has been through a blue door. You have had to question your ability. You've had to have a word with yourself there and then on the spot. You've had to make quite ruthless decisions with yourself or someone else at that moment in time to then make the decision to go and do that thing you don't want to do, but you know you have to do. And that for me was my blue door, is I have to do this. I know I have to go through this door because operational success depends on it. If we don't move through this door, they might come back through it, and then they're fighting inside our compound, inwards out. And that's probably the worst situation you could ever get with an enemy. But we all go through this process, and we all go through this. And some of you have been through your blue door, and I would argue that all of you have been through your blue door at one point. I would argue now that a lot of you have probably stood on a blue door ready to do the next thing. And I will 100% guarantee that we will have another blue door to go through again. And I mean this more psychologically, and Jack at the end is going to sort of bring this point on more and how it is tangible thinking for you to walk away with. But you have to ask yourself, what is it that you've been through? What are you going to go through, and what are you going to go through again, and what you've been through, or what you're going through right now? We need to reflect on the pride in that as well, by the way, which is something I'll raise at the end. So this is Blue Dave. And we use Blue Dave for a number of things. As you can see between his thighs, he's declared himself whatever he wants to declare himself, but we call him Dave. And Dave experiences the same symptoms and feelings that I experienced on that blue door. You know, although I couldn't see him, dilated pupils, increased heart rate, breathing speeds up, sweaty palms, irrational anxious movements, muscular tension. Then also go through a psychological processing such as fight, flight, and freeze. Mouth gets dry, shaking, butterflies, and the feeling of needing the toilet. Now, these are all symptoms of what we feel when fear or stress, worry, anxiety strikes, and we get this physiological reaction spiked by an adrenal rush and a dump of cortisol within our body that makes us get all these. Now, a lot of us have experienced this in the past, these symptoms in the past related to negative things and things that we associate with things such as fear. Now, we all suffer with fear. We all go through fear. I won't ever class myself as an expert on fear. No, I don't think anyone is. What I would like to reiterate the point of is people look at the Marines, the SAS, the Special Boat Service, Parachute Regiment, and other such infantry very close to the bone elite soldier in and say, oh, you're fearless. You're just fearless to go through the blue doors and stuff like that. And I'd argue the point that that's utter rubbish. And if you ever come across someone who says they're fearless, they're either lying to you or they've got something completely wrong with them. The rest of us are completely susceptible to fear. What we have the ability to do and what we're trained to do through our careers, and even now in business and what we help other businesses do and what we help people do, is understand the knock-on effects of what fear is trying to do to you and help you process and think with clarity and channel certain different emotions so you can move forwards. Now, fear, you're only born with it in two senses. And that's the fear of falling and the fear of noise. And I know we've got some NHS staff who have tuned in tonight. And hopefully they'll be able to back me up through comments. But when we do the startle reflex of a child which is born within a couple of days, it's picking up on those sort of acute behaviours where they flinch and they protect themselves. So if we're only born with two fears, it kind of essentially makes us born fearless. And yet we can get halfway through our lives and we have all these built up fears on certain things. And towards the end, I'm going to talk about public speaking because it's one of the biggest ones that people fall to when it comes to fear. But I'd argue that fear is pretty much false events appearing real. And it's stuff that you've accumulated over your life through learned behaviours, through things that you've witnessed on telly, through things that you've seen to happen to other people, that you then go, that looks scary, I'm gonna bring this in, and now it's one of my fears as well. Now that's absolutely fine, and people build fears in different ways, and that's completely right. What we need to do is work out ways of how we can get through fear and work with fear in order to achieve what we want to achieve, because a lot of people don't achieve success in life, and success can be anything. You can think it's a tangible object, from a house to a car to money, or it could be something which you can't put your hands on all the time. So family and friends and a lovely life and things that you really aspire to have. But success is what you want it to be. But people fall down in achieving success because this 4-letter word gets in the way a lot. And what Blue Dave experiences of these physiological reactions, a lot of us listen to and think, this moment is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this because my body feels like this. So what we're going to talk about more of as we move through definitely the next couple of weeks is actually exposing these truths, learning that they're completely fine, and how we can make them work with us rather than work against them. And so we're going to use this ICE model. We're going to use this ICE approach as we go forward. And I've had people email me this week. I've just had one recently, just before we logged on. People talking to us over social media, saying what their inspirations are, why they do what they do. And we've come to, within our team, believe that an inspiration is the reason why you do something, the reason why you put yourself in the fray, the reason that you put yourself forward. I know I mentioned it last week, but those of you which weren't here, and I won't go on too long about it, but when I was walking up that hill on that arduous training course, and I had a big bag on, and I was feeling it, and I was tired, and I was wet, and I was cold, and I couldn't see anything from anywhere. And I thought I was at the top of the hill, and then it wasn't at the top of the hill, and I sort of shrugged my shoulders, bent over, and wanted to give up. And the guy who came up next to me, exactly the same, and then he reached in his pocket, looked at something, and then off he went. And those of you which know the story is that later that evening I asked him what that was. He showed me what it was, and it was a laminated picture of his little girl, and then on the back it was a Range Rover and also a beach holiday. And when I asked him what it was, he says it's his inspiration. It's the reason why he does everything. And that always stuck with me. And that's what's caused us to create this model, which hopefully you'll find value in. And although we've delivered this to quite a couple of thousand people now, hopefully you'll remember this when you see it grow even bigger over the next couple of years. Oh, remember the ICE model. Even better than that, though, is that you grow with it. That's what we really care about, is that you use this model to help you achieve success. But I just want to see it. So get ready in the comments box now. I want you to imagine yourself in a situation. You're stood there on one of those rocks nearest the screen. And as you can see, this is snow drifted, and the water's frozen in areas. And so this is a very cold water feature. It's mountainous, so it's probably a couple of thousand feet. Not the nicest thing to get into. Now, it's raining, and I'm stood there with yourselves, and I say, yeah, and you get them. And you have to strip down to your nicks and your bras and your pants, and you go in exposed skin. There's always a couple of people who go, yeah, I'll do it, because we're online, and we're online. You know, it's safe and warm. Just put yes or no, would you get in it? Okay, so I'll give you two seconds just to put yes or no, would you get in it? I'm going to watch. There's always a few which have had a couple of drinks by now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting your messages, so don't worry if you don't think chat's not on. Okay, so there's a few yeses, there's a few nos. Usually we get quite a few nos, and the reason being is people make the reason for it's freezing. Why should I? Perfect. Why should I? In the center of that lake, I've now placed a couple of people who are quite close to you, family, friends, whoever you want to be. They're being quite evil. I've put them in the lake, and they're now struggling to swim. And I won't even give you the answer or the question. I'll just look at you. Now I would then argue that even if I didn't ask you the question of who would get in it now, because I think that becomes rhetorical, I wouldn't even have to pose the question to see you running into the lake, fully clothed, whatever you want to do, to go and save the people you love. The point being there is that it's not the lake or the cold or the shall I do it, shall I do it, that's the problem. It's the reason for going in the lake. So originally I say, get in the lake, come on, it's raining, shut up, just get in, it's January, it's cold, prove yourself. A few of you will get in, a few of you won't. When you see something or someone close to you who's struggling and they're in the middle of that lake, and the reason for getting in becomes far more severe, you'll be in there like a flash. And that's something that we really need to expose now. Okay, so it's quite a deep hypothetical reasoning, but it brings out the point in our understanding that if something really is deep-rooted within inside, people won't even have to say anything to motivate you. You will just do it. It becomes an intrinsic motivation rather than an external one. So I'd like you to think about that. I'd like you then to make the relation between what we're saying there and how things are deep-rooted in you and what really truly inspires you and what are you doing for you and what are you actually doing for other people just to look like you're doing it. And think what this inspiration or inspirations can be. Jack's going to talk about it later, about tiered and your list of inspirations as well, because you can have more than one. But that reason that reason for going to do what you want to do, because that's the most important thing. So when we hit midnight, and as we discussed last week very quickly, when we hit midnight and we've made these on the spot New Year's resolutions up because we've had half a bottle of champagne and we're singing Auld Lang Syne to everyone and high-fiving. And we go, yeah. Come January tomorrow when I wake up after my hangover, I'm going to be a vegan. I'm going to go running every day. You know, I'll go running every day. And I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do dry January, even though you wake up with a hangover. And you get to the 5th, the 6th, sort of the 15th, and then we get halfway through the month, and it's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm just going to go back to my old ways. Because you didn't put enough effort into thinking about what you truly, truly wanted. It was just an on-the-spur cuff moment where we're like, oh, I need to make something up, so I'm going to make this up, and I'm going to do too much of it, and then when it gets too hard, I'm just going to take my foot off the gas. The reason for you doing that's not big enough. The reason for you kicking habits or turning your life around in the next year is not good enough. You haven't found the real reason as to why you want to do it. And I make a valid point here as well with when it comes to New Year's resolutions. People who make New Year's resolutions within the last week of December or think about it for January, in my mind, still don't have a good enough reason. Because if your reason is deep enough and big enough for what you want to achieve, you'll do it in June. You'll do it in the spring. You'll start in September. You'll start in mid-October. You'll start it halfway through a Sunday rather than waiting to get to Monday. Because you believe in what you want. You have a deep reason. And this is going to lead us on to talk about the next part, the ICE model, which is courage. And this is something that we've been talking about a lot in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of you have been asking questions about. Where does courage come from? How do I overcome fear? Let's just get the elephant out of the room now. You can never overcome fear. You can work with fear. Fear is a great indicator that you're actually heading in the right way. You can work with fear. You can think with clarity around fear. You can't get rid of fear. Because when one thing goes, and you get better at something, and then you step into the realms of doing something bigger and a bigger challenge, then you're going to be susceptible to the fear that's linked to that. And although your confidence might grow, you're still going to find tweaks of fear that come in here and there, which try and put you down a little bit. So fear's never going to go anywhere. Fear's never going to go anywhere. Where you become good is this, courage. And our belief within Find Your Edge is that courage comes from a belief within yourself. A belief within your skills, a belief within your ability, a belief within yourself that you can do this. And it also is linked to the belief that you know you can achieve what is inspiring you to push forward. And like we said last week, and like I'll say again, an inspiration isn't necessarily a goal, but you can link goals to it. So right now, my inspiration, and probably will always be my children, they're the reason I do everything. And they're even more of a reason for everything, not when things go right and we can celebrate success for doing things well in businesses or gaining contracts. They come from those days when it's difficult, when COVID-19 strikes and it takes away 50% of your contracts. You don't turn around and say, oh, it's all over. You look at the people, you look at the reason why you do everything and say, no, we go again. We change this, we change that. We look at a different angle, we move forward. That's how we do things. And this helps us build belief. What is at home, or whatever that inspiration is, whatever that intrinsic drive is for you, pushes you forward. It grows your belief in it, and it helps you build this courage. And the next slide is something that I really want you to think about and how we can grow our courage. Courage is linked to this lion with the mane and this fearless warrior and all these types of things. Courage is everywhere. It's taken you courage to ask to come on this 6-week program. It's taken you courage to probably put some comments in there and speak to someone else. It's taken you courage to go for that job interview you wanted. For those of you which have had babies, it's, well, for the dude, it's taken you courage to say, yeah, come on then, let's do this. My bank account was in red already, let's make it worse. And for the ladies, you've had to go through something far worse and far harder than we'd ever experienced. It takes courage to do everything within our lives. It takes courage to ride a bike. It takes courage to go to school. It takes courage to put your hand up and ask a question. And so courage isn't the fearless warrior. Courage is everywhere. But what we can do is we can dumb ourselves down by these physiological reactions that we talk about within Blue Dave. And when we're stood on that blue door, which we all get into this situation of, we can listen to the wrong things within our body. We can listen to the wrong things within our mind, which keep us in this place called the comfort zone. Now, we all have a comfort zone, and comfort zones are great places. We should all have a comfort zone to a degree. You have to ask yourself, how much time do you spend within the comfort zone? How much time are you investing away from your comfort zone? How much are you actually exploring and learning about yourself? Because fear is always going to be there. Fear is like this shark infested water which surrounds your little comfort zone island, and you have to find a way to sail across it, or you have to swim through it and get to the next island, because the next island is learning and also growth. So when you step from your comfort zone, you immediately come into your uncertainty, your unknown, your, oh, this doesn't feel right. You instantly come into those physiological reactions that you're just not used to, or they give you that feeling of, oh, this isn't good. I need to fight, flight. I feel like survival here. And this is like this fear area. I'm going to use a point here. It's public speaking. I ask so many businesses these days, you know, when we got groups of people, or when we had groups of people, and we're all going to be 3 or 4 meters apart in these groups soon. But when we're all together, and you ask people, you know, give me some fears in this room. Public speaking, talking to other people, talking to large groups, put my hand up, doing this, giving a report back is so common, it's unbelievable. That's because people attribute putting their hand up in front of a large group of people, delivering a report, because they think they're going to get judged. They think people are looking at them and they're going to say stuff or tut or moan, because it's probably happened before. So we build this way of thinking into our heads, go, well, right, public speaking is bad. I'm never going to stand up and speak in front of people again, because once when I was at school, someone called me an idiot. And so it becomes a learned behavior, which we like never doing it. So I stay in my comfort zone because it's comfortable to keep my hand down and not say anything. This is wrong. We need to learn and grow. So we have to do the public speaking. We have to do things that put us on edge a little bit more, to expose ourselves to our abilities rather than our fears. Because when you push through fear, you learn things about yourself. You may fail, and let's be honest, fail's good. When you fail, you learn more things about yourself than when you succeed. Too much success breeds ego. Okay, failure breeds humility, and humility, people which have that humble thing within themselves, say, yeah, I failed, or I go again, I failed, or I go again. They're the people who have courage to keep pushing forward. When you do that, you grow as a person. I ask you to go away, and I know some of you already watched it, but watch a National Geographic program called Free Solo, starring Alex Honnold. I don't know if I've mentioned on this before, I might have mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. With Alex Honnold, he's a free climber, and basically he goes up like the Yosemite valleys and 3,000 feet cliffs, climbing them with no ropes. So he does it completely free soloing, no ropes, no support, usually does it on his own. And he had a brain scan, and he had some psych tests, and someone even said to him, you're crazy, you know, you're always stepping out your comfort zone. And he said a real profound thing during the documentary, which was, I don't step from my comfort zone, I expand it. And that's what we should all be looking to do. Your comfort zone isn't sitting around eating cake and sitting on the sofa and watching everyone else crack on with their goals, and you feel yourself with regret and think, oh, I wish I was doing that as well. That's not your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is the ability to be in situations that are stressful, they cause fear, they cause worry and anxiety, but in a good way, where you recognize it. You say, yeah, this is difficult. This is a challenge. Public speaking, like I do public speaking, or did a lot of public speaking, even now before starting the webinars, is a bit of an adrenaline rush. Okay, I'm going to be speaking to some people. They're all at home in their pants, hopefully, you know. I mean, hopefully as in hopefully you're in your pants and not all naked. That's what I meant by hopefully there. See, adrenaline spike again. But you learn to cope with it. You learn to go, okay, yeah, this is a natural response I'm going through. Now I need to do my job. Exactly like the blue door. This is a horrific response I'm going through. I want to be sick here. I want to go home. I don't want to do this job anymore. Yep, put that aside. Now get on with your job. Go through the door. Okay? It's all about this. And what people fail to realize, and where people don't invest in themselves enough, is that they listen too much to Blue Dave and his adrenaline responses, and then, this is not good, this is survival, I need to get out of this situation because it doesn't feel good for me. That we fail to recognize that the same chemicals, the same feelings are also attributed to when you succeed. So a boxer walking towards the ring he is full of adrenaline, or she is full of adrenaline. She's pent up. Oh, what if I get punched in the face and I get knocked out in front of millions of people who are watching? Worry, concern. I'm confident. I've got belief in myself. But they walk to the ring, then they get through the ring, and we spent time with these people. We know how these fighters think, and it's just constant worry till they get to the ring. Then they get to the ring and they go into a state of flow where they actually do what they are very good at doing, and then hopefully they win the fight. Then after they win the fight, they go through the same physiological reactions that they had with the adrenaline, the cortisol, and the worry, and the stress, and the build-up to the fight, all over again. But because it's associated to a feeling of euphoria and happiness, it's then recognized as, oh, this feels amazing, this feels so good. But had they not done that before, they wouldn't be able to recognize the same symptoms within our adrenaline issues, where we're experiencing fear and we want to step away and go back into a comfort zone. What's also with those elated feelings is these four chemicals: endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. So just very quickly, and not to step on Jack's toes too much, endorphins is like the chemical for our pleasurable highs, basically. That mask pain, we get it when we're running, doing arduous physical activity, during sex. Endorphins gets released, and it sort of builds up this euphoric state for ourselves to push forwards and carry on doing what we're doing. Dopamine can be associated with the wrong, but also the right, in the sense of when you achieve a goal, you get a nice flutter of dopamine, you feel good. When you tick off your to-do list, you slowly start to work down the list and you see everything decreasing, you think, oh, that's good. And you get that feeling of, yeah, I'm achieving things today, or I've achieved a big task. Oxytocin is like the relationship chemical. They call it the love chemical. But it's the feeling of bond. So when you do maybe an arduous task with someone else and you go through something together, you both release that type of chemical and it bonds you together. And that's why people do often grow more together during adversity, because they go through this shared hardship that they can share together, and it's released, and they feel these compassionate feelings towards one another, and not in a love way necessarily, but in a friendship way. And then you have the feeling serotonin, which is like a happy chemical that gives us a feeling of pride. When you step from your comfort zone and you begin to expand it, and you push through fear and you succeed and you learn and grow, the growing part is recognizing these chemicals and going, oh, this feels so good. Oh, I'm so glad that, I had all those adrenal feelings. I didn't feel good about this situation, but now I've achieved it. It feels so good. That is what you're hunting for. None of this, oh, I don't feel good, I'm going to hide away. You're hunting for this bit here. The same adrenaline fix, the same feeling that you had before, but then linked with these four chemicals as well, and recognizing your ability to get through it. And you don't need to type it here, but I'm sure most of you can relate to that thing that gone, oh, this is going to be bad, I don't like this is horrible, blah, 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 blah. And then you complete the task, and then afterwards you're like, that went too bad actually. Might not do it again too quickly, but it wasn't too bad. We need to concentrate on that. Oh, it wasn't too bad in the end. People have fears of spiders and strange things like that, because we've seen someone in Australia get bitten by one many years ago on National Geographic. We live in the UK. Spiders aren't very scary. They just move around too quickly, but we associate it. It moves too quick and it might get me. It won't. So if you do have a fear of spiders, just hold a spider, and it's going to sit there and stare at you thinking, please don't do anything to me. And it's probably going to have more fear than you have. You overcome it. And you're like, yeah, that don't feel too bad. And then you go and put it down. Just a safety note though, but please don't go and pick up poisonous spiders and try that one and say, Ben asked me to do it, because that's not cool. But that's what we want you to be thinking like. What can you challenge yourself with? And Jack's going to set you a couple of tasks, a couple of things to think about this week, but think about those things that do induce your fear. What is it? I started turning off the news 2 weeks ago, because everything I read was making me feel fearful about this situation. Now I've turned it off. It's not even there. This whole situation's different. This whole situation's different to me. I've not turned a blind eye personally, and I've not neglected it, and I'm taking it seriously. But the fear that was being driven by what's happening, I've put to bed. I don't want to see it anymore, and I can concentrate on something else. You should all have a little go at that. You should see what is it that you fear at the moment that you can actually embrace? What is that fear that you can actually take on? What is that fear that you can actually tackle? And where can you relate these four chemicals to it? And we want you to really try and expand this comfort zone. And I'm sure the questions will come flooding in towards the end, and we're willing to go over it. But when you can get through get through, can get round and work with fear, and you learn and you grow, that's when your comfort zone expands. You take Alex Honnold. If he was 10 years old and you put him on a 3,000-foot cliff without a rope, I got a pretty damn sure feeling that he was going to be in a very uncomfortable position when I get off the wall. But because he's done it gradually through time, and he's done this, then he's done 100 foot and then 200 foot, and now he can work at heights that seem almost unimaginable to ourselves because we haven't done it. Because he's practiced over a lifetime, he's grown his comfortability through this fear, he's expanded it, and now he can deal with the pressures that his body tries to put on him during times of stress, think with clarity, and make the moves that he needs to make. And that finally leads us on to enactment. So we've got these three tiers. We've got inspiration, we've got courage in the middle, and then we've got enactment at the top. Now, within our team, we recognize and believe that courage and belief in the middle is the bridge between what you're thinking of achieving and then taking the steps to achieve it. So your inspiration, your drive, your reason has to be bridged towards taking those steps. So courage sits in the middle of that, but then we need to actually take those steps. Then we need to actually move forward and do the doing. As soon as I started saying it to clients and thought about it myself, Nike built a brand off this. Nike built a multi-billion dollar brand off just do it. And that is as simple as it is, just do it. So when it comes to enactment, if you can get yourself to the stage of going, right, I know what I want, I know the reason why I'm doing it, and then you can build this belief and courage within yourself to then be ready on that start line, all you then got to do is start taking steps, whether that's physical or mental steps. That's all you have to start doing, is taking steps towards what you want to achieve. You might get knocked back, and we're going to come back to talk about that in a second. You might get knocked back, you might fail, you might have to come back down the ice model. But it's the inspiration and the courage within you to get you to that start line where it's a green light. This is why it's an upside down traffic light, because it will push you forward, and then you go and you embrace what you're taking on. And you're almost past this adrenaline state when you begin to do what you want to do. You know, you've gone through the thinking process brings on more adrenaline than probably actually doing it. And then you get to the point of doing it, and then you go into a flow state because you start to want to achieve what you want to achieve. So we really want to go forward, start looking at how this enactment and taking these steps is going to encourage a good way of thinking, in the sense of coming away from our comfort zone, you know, using fear as a trajectory rather than something that suppresses our ambitions, because that's what it can do. We look at things with a lot of regret. We spoke about that in the first week of why do we have so much regret? It's because we've allowed something to suppress what we truly want. You have to fuck that off. You have to think with clarity to say, no, this is what I want, and I believe in myself that I can achieve it. And enactment is your steps towards doing it. And so using the theory of exposure equals composure, the blue door for me was everything I've just spoken about with you just now. Is I did not want to be in that position. It was bullets, guns, and grenades, bombs, death, and injury. It is as severe as you can make the situation. You have a small tin blue door between you and them. You have no one else with you apart from a commander, because everyone else is caught up on the fight on the top, because they're distracted by who's coming through this door. If I'm not quick enough, when I go through that door, I might get shot. If my skills aren't good enough and I go through that door, I might get shot. If my weapon is maintained enough, I might go through that door, the rest goes on. I need to have the upper hand. I need to have the psychological upper hand on my enemy on the other side of that door, which means I need to accept, within the realms of safety, within my comfort zone, which is this side of the blue door before it opens, to accept what I'm about to go and do. I have to remind myself in my beliefs, you know, you are good at this. You wear the title Royal Marines Commando for a reason. You are part of this unity of what we're part of here. You have experienced combat already. You have had to do this already. You've done training. Think with clarity. Accept the feeling of fear that's come over you. Accept that you don't like the situation. Put it to one side. Get ready to go. Door opens, you go and do it. You have all been on that blue door. You have all gone through that blue door, and you will all go through that blue door again. And we like to express it as exposure equals composure. So everything I've just described there, I've been through the training. I've been through combat situations. I've been through similar situations like this before. I've seen what happens in similar situations before when it goes wrong and when it goes right. Okay? This is experience. This is my ability to understand that every time I've been through a situation before as well, I've had these huge adrenaline responses. I know it's normal. If I get through the situation, I do my job properly, and I do it with clarity, and there is that luck factor. But if I do the 90% of everything I have within my control, I will get through a situation, I'll execute what I need to execute, and then I'll come back in. That's as simple as it is. Same with public speaking. You talk to people, it doesn't always feel nice. Oh, I've got to go do a speech, or I've got to deliver the report this week. It doesn't feel nice. Accept it doesn't feel nice. Realize it doesn't feel nice. Put it to one side, then do what you need to do. And the more you do this, the more you expose yourself to these types of situations, the more composed you are when it comes to doing it again. So take the spider, for example. It is a bit of a hypothetical one, but people do seem to have this fear of spiders. Pick that spider up for 10 seconds. Done. Oh, I didn't like that. Okay, that's fine. Next week, you're doing 20 seconds. Come 30 seconds, come a week later when you've done 6 weeks and you've held spiders on and off for weeks on end, you'll just be holding it. You might feel a bit of a, put it down. It would have been far worse if you did that at the beginning, because you've done over time, you've exposed yourselves to these feelings, sometimes irrational responses as well, and this emotional state to go, right, think with clarity, it's not going to hurt me. Yeah, off you go, mate. And that's it. We need to expose ourselves to stuff. So we've saved it to this point, and I'm going to pass over to Jack very shortly. We've saved it to this point of talking about fear on this program, but now we're really going to start capturing it. And we're going to begin it, we have begun it this week, and we're going to talk about it in weeks 4, 5, and 6, because it's such an important thing. But what I want you to start thinking about is what you fear, expose yourself to it. Now, I mean that in the realms of safety. Okay, if you fear things that are probably going to go and kill you, don't expose yourself to it, right? I'm thinking about life-changing goals, life-changing experiences here. But go and expose yourself to things that you fear. Go and take a bit of a life journey and knowledge in yourself to push with that fear. Move through that circle, learn something about yourself, grow, and then go and do it all over again. That's life. And you wouldn't be in the position you're in now, right now in your life, had you not done that already before. So that is the ICE model. And just to reiterate a few points is, you'll see that blue arrow on the right. You may get to the start line and want to take the steps forward, and something will stop you. So then you need to come back. You need to go, why am I doing this? Why? And sometimes that's at that moment when you need to remind yourself of your own belief, your skill set. You are good enough. You might have to have a 10-second affirmation with yourself, or look in the mirror and go, you can do this, and give yourself the inspiration required. If you then struggle at that point and say, no, I don't believe in myself, guarantee it, just like the lake, the reason is big enough, and you remind yourself of that reason once again, you will push forward back up the ICE model. You will go into the lake. You will go through the blue door. You will find the reason and the courage and the belief in yourself to take those steps forwards to achieve what you want to achieve. You've got to want it. I know, big sentence, lots of W's. You've got to want it. You've got to have the reason within yourself to go and do it.